Good morning, my friends. My voice is a little low this morning. I haven't been feeling well for several days, and I think I've either caught something from my grandson. I probably a cold of some type, one of those childhood colds, or I might have an allergic reaction to all the work we did in the barn, which is like the mouse hotel of the century. There was so much mousiness and rattiness in there. The first time we went to work in the barn, I wore a mask when I was shoveling everything out, and the second time I failed to do so, and I think maybe I just inhaled too much mouse dust. Anyway, we'll see. So I'm not feeling well this morning. I'm gonna pour myself a little cup of tea. It's hardly morning, it's really getting closer to noon. I'm taking a relaxing day. I really am. Well, a more restful day. I've done a little bit of laundry and a little bit of dishes, and I'm thinking about supper, but that's about all so far. But I did want to say hi and let you know what I'm working on. I've got to catch you up. Okay, so we did the Christmas Bazaar, and the next day I drove to Mississippi all of a sudden. And I was there almost a week, 5 days, something like that. Excuse me. And then when I came back home, I came through the town where my son and daughter-in-law live, and we caravanned together back here to my house for Thanksgiving. That's too hot to drink. I'm going to let it cool down. Um, so they were here for Thanksgiving for a whole week, and it was a sheer delight. I loved every minute of it. I got to spend time with their little baby, who's 1 year old, really for the first time just by himself. And that was just a delight. I really got to know him, and he got to know me. And he's just such a lovely, even-tempered child. Even when he's sick, he still tries to be happy. That's a rare thing with a baby. So they left yesterday morning, Sunday morning. And then this morning, Ada went off to work, and our daughter went off to work, and the house is quiet. I'm not going to try to get it all back into shape right away. I'm going to be like Doggy back here. See him resting? That's all he does is sleep on top of that pile of papers. Oh, where I am, by the way, you haven't seen me here before. This is my chair in my bedroom where I sit every morning trying to wake up. Okay. I have a big cup of creamy coffee and a couple pieces of wheat toast, and I read the news and Facebook and stuff like that, and just take care of stuff. And I sit here for about an hour until I'm ready to go do stuff. And I thought I would show you, this is my bedside table. Those of you who are my age or older, you know that as you get older, your bedside table starts to look like a small pharmacy, especially when you're not well. Look at all that stuff. And I've got a pot of tea. I've got my sound machine and my lotion, my Advil and my Tylenol and all kinds of stuff for sinuses. It's just a mess. That's how life is when you get older. When I was young, my bedside table had, ponytail holders and hairbrushes and things like that. Anyway, I had a great day at the farmer's market. I did go in spite of the fact that it was freezing cold. And I didn't feel the best, but I really didn't feel terrible. So I went there on Saturday and sold a lot of stuff. I sold yarn. I took yarn that I made things, scarves and stuff, hats 2-3 years ago, and they sold on Saturday. So I figured, well, it must be time to knit some more. So I'm going to share a knitting pattern with you today in just a second. I'm also going to show you a little footage of the barn as we were clearing it out, not too much. And I've got some footage I've been meaning to share for a while of how to make, on your hand, how to make a center pull yarn ball. Okay, I don't think I've shared that before. I think I've shared something else, but this is something I learned from Kate Jackson, and I've really enjoyed doing it. So I'm going to share that with you at the end of this video. So that's what's on the schedule for today. And while you're watching that, I'm going to sip my tea and recover from whatever this ailment is that is afflicting me. I'll catch up with you soon. Thanks for coming today. Okay, so this scarf, let's do the technicalities first. Here's the yarn I'm using, Red Heart Shimmer. These Red Heart Soft and Red Heart Shimmer yarns are softer than the regular Red Heart, which is a little scratchy. This is a worsted weight, size 4, but it's a thin worsted. Kind of like Simply Soft is a thin worsted. Anyway, I like this yarn a lot. I had almost a whole skein, so I figured it would be enough. And this is the other yarn I'm using, which I'm sure I got at a thrift store. I'm also sure it's a worsted, knitted worsted weight. This is 54% acrylic, 45% cotton. The other one is all acrylic, so none of this is wool or anything that's going to shrink or do something scary. And this is, a variegated on its own. It's a blue-gray, lovely, stormy sky kind of color. The interesting thing is when you put it with this yarn, when you put it together, and I like to knit yarns together, it really does turn very gray. It doesn't look very blue. It's kind of dark in here. Let me turn this other light on. That might help. There, that's a little bit better. Okay, I love how this is turning out, and I'm doing it on circular needles, which are, I think, about a size 10, okay? And I cast on 20 stitches. I love scarves because every row takes just a matter of seconds. And what I did is 5 stitches on this side and 5 stitches on this side I have as a border, and they're just knit. Okay, there's no purling also involved in this. I don't mind purling, but it just slows you down. And then the 10 stitches in the middle, what I did with them is just every other row, I do a yarn over, knit together. I do that 5 times. Okay, so that equals out to those 10 stitches in the middle. So it's 5 knit, yarn over, knit 2 together, 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 and then 5 more knits. And you turn around, and the next row you just knit straight. Okay, so you only have to do that yarn over pattern every other row. I would call that you could call that the right side, although I have discovered that it's the other side that is really fun. It's this swirly ice cream kind of look in the middle. I just love it. I think that will sell well. I don't think I'm going to put fringe on it. Oh, I did do, on the end, I just did some knit all those rows, probably about 10 rows on the bottom. And I think I have enough yarn to make a good 75 inch scarf. About a 6-foot scarf, about a little taller than me, is a good length. Okay, so that's the scarf for this week, and I'll probably do another one. I'd love to do another scarf, excuse me, using this yarn, which is some crazy yarn. It's very fluffy and a little bit of sparkle, but it's thin and then very thick. I don't know what I'm going to do. I might combine that with another yarn, just like I'm doing with this one. What I like about combining 2 worsted weight yarns is it gives you the equivalent of kind of a bulky yarn, and so it makes for a nice thick, soft scarf instead of a thin scarf, which you would get if you just used 1 strand instead of 2. Okay, now we will move on to something else. Hey guys, look what we're doing. It is kind of dry here, but we're allowed to burn as long as it's in a container, and that's what we wanted to do out of this barn office. We are burning, as Philip calls it, mouse house. It's just a whole barn that belonged to the mice. We burnt so much stuff. That shopping cart was in the barn office too. He dragged out this boat. Now this is an interesting story. When Julia was in 8th grade, maybe 9th grade, her math for one semester when we were homeschooling her was her daddy and she lofted the plans for that boat and built that boat, and which was some pretty hoopy math. And it's been sitting in that bay of the barn for 6 years. And Adam was convinced the bottom would be rotted out, and it's not. It looks pristine. It's beautiful. Not that we're going to use it for anything. The barn office is looking quite empty. I'll show you that in a minute, because I just earlier today posted a video showing how nasty it was, and we have taken out so much stuff. This is a wheelbarrow full of stuff that can be recycled or thrown out. We have that black tub right there full of stuff that Adam might want to keep. Some of it he really does want to keep. Some of it's useful. So we're sorting a bit, but let me show you the inside. It seems like about half of what was in here was potting containers, those little black potting containers. Some of them are just ripped to shreds. Oh, there goes Mouse. You see him going back there? Did you see him? No, there he goes. Yeah, they're going to be sad. I mean, they can still live in here, but they're not going to have the hiding spots. This is 2 cases of beer bottles. Adam used to make beer years ago. He hasn't made it, so I'm going to give those away. See, this is what so much of it looked like, just nasty. And it is still very nasty in here. We're not done by a long shot. This was the corner. This was the corner, the really nasty corner, where the shopping cart was. And it's still horrible. And you see, the reason why it's so bad is because Hurricane Florence took the roof off of this barn. The whole barn is worthless. It's full of termites and fallen apart. But we're not taking it down yet because that would be a lot of work. The mice love to get into these little spots like this and make their little nests. Anyway, I've still got quite a bit of stuff to shovel out of here and sort through and burn up what we can. And I don't know if we'll get to it all today. Tomorrow's Thanksgiving and we have a lot of work to do and I don't want to be that tired. Oh, look. There's 1 dog, 2 dog, 3 dog. Hey, dogs. All right, so that's what we're doing today. Hi, YouTube friends. This should be a pretty quick video about how to make a center pull yarn ball off your spinning wheel that you can put on your hand and use to make a 2-ply, not a 3-ply. This is not chain plying, but a 2-ply finished yarn. Now, I am watching on my laptop up here. There it is. I'm watching Kate Jackson do this, but she does it so fast that I'm having to go back and look over and over again and stop the video. And I thought it might be useful to have a video that does it really slowly. So this is my finished single ply on my bobbin. I do have it coming through these little holders on the side and out through the orifice. I'm hoping that that will give me more control. On the end here, I've done just a little slip knot, okay, on the end. And I'm going to put that over my thumb. Now, I'm doing this just like Kate demonstrates. I'm just doing it more slowly, okay? And then after she puts it on there, she wraps it around her wrist. And then she brings it up and puts it between her index finger and her middle finger and back between those two and then around her pinky finger on the front. And then around the back of her hand, the base of her hand, okay? Now let me do a little bit of this. She does this really fast, and she does turn her hand around so you can see it, but, man, it's so fast, it's hard. Okay, so the front of your hand should look like this. You should have this here and this. And the back of your hand should look like this. Now this is coming down underneath the ball of your thumb. And then you should have just on the back of these 2 fingers, okay? Okay, and then she keeps on doing this for a long time. This is your ball. This is different from what I was doing. A center pull that you're not going to ply off of. See, I'm taking this single ply right off of my bobbin. I'm not putting it onto a nitty knotty. I'm not putting it onto any kind of I'm not putting it onto another bobbin. Yeah, this is very different. I usually would put this onto something else to continue to work with it to do a ply. It's very strange to take it off as a single and put it onto your hand and make a ball. I'm making a single ply ball. Okay, I'm going to keep doing this. And I'll speed it up a lot, okay? And probably cut out part of it. Now, the important thing to remember that I've just watched Kate do is that you're not going to be pulling this ball off your wrist.
you're going to be off of your hand, you're going to be pushing it down onto your wrist. And so you're going to want for this middle section eventually to be really mounded up and covered with yarn so that it looks like this, because you're going to be bringing it down. It'll be loosely wrapped around your wrist. Okay, that's the goal. And another thing she mentioned, this is important, is that you want to remove your drive band from your bobbin before you do this, so that the bobbin is flowing freely and spinning freely. I really like any kind of plying that makes it so that I don't have leftover single at the end. I used to always have 2 different bobbins of single and ply them together. And that was so frustrating, because I would, even if you weigh them, you're never going to spin it so, well, maybe some people do. I don't spin precisely enough for that to work well. Anyway, I always had leftover single. Now you see how these fingers are bending down now, and I'm really able to just kind of, you don't want to make it tight, just loosely go like this. And those 2 middle fingers are making the ball larger. Okay, so as you get to the end, you can really go quite a bit faster. But I would imagine at the beginning it's important to actually go behind those 2 fingers. You want to go down here long enough. You don't want any of it to be going to be tight. You want to be able to get it on your wrist and for it to come out of the ball easily. The loop that's around my thumb is going to be one end of the ply, obviously. And once I shove this down onto my wrist, that will be very easy to pick off. And then the other end of the single ply will be at the very end of this bobbin when I get to it. Okay. Now here's how it's looking at this point. And as I get to the end, I realize I can hold the back of my hand toward me, make sure that my single is kind of going up toward the base of my pinky, wrapping around the back of my hand, and then around the base of my thumb. And I don't really have to turn my hand over. You may wonder, why don't you just do this around a really large, ball jar or some other kind of a jar? But there's a real advantage to having your hand involved, because it's so maneuverable for looping it around. But just make sure you don't do it so tightly that if your fingers start to become crampy or uncomfortable, then you're probably cinching your single ply too tight around your hand. And you want to keep it, the whole point is to have a ball that is very aerated in the middle, very open, so that the yarn that's in the middle, that end that's in the middle, can come out very easily. And so you don't want to make it too tight. We're getting close to the end now. See? Wow, look how big that is right there. I'm hoping that my yarn doesn't have so much twist that it tangles this up, but it seems to be doing well. After you've spun for a while, you know that when you're working with a single or double ply, anything before you've wet finished it and thwacked it well, you have to keep a good bit of tension on it to keep it straight, because you can see as soon as I don't, I get little pigtails like that. You don't want those pigtails in any of your finished yarn, and if you get it into your ply, then you're pretty stuck with it. That's you may be wondering, why, if I love chain plying so much, why am I bothering with this? There's a couple of reasons for that. First of all, chain plying is a little athletic and a little nerve-wracking, although I do enjoy it. It's there's a lot to keep track of. I should go through that at some point and just show you all the things you have to be watching. There's a real rhythm to it. You have to watch as you feed the ply into the orifice, and you have to watch and keep track of your loop, and you have to make sure that everything that's going, that's becoming plied in your hands doesn't have pigtails, and you have to be grabbing your new single ply through the loop. It's just, it's a very mentally somewhat taxing thing. The other thing is, if you have a lot of single ply, you end up with only 1/3 that length in your finished yarn. Now, if you want a nice bulky yarn, it can be great. But I'm spinning all this myself and trying to finish that sweater, my homespun sweater. And I get all this, I order more fiber, then I card it and blend it, and I spin it, and then I triple ply it, and it's just not very much left. And this should give me, doing a 2-ply, which is what a lot of that sweater is anyway. The older homespun is 2-ply. Before I got on my chain plying binge. And so it goes further. And when you go to all that trouble to make yarn, you wouldn't have a good bit of it. I don't think any of this is too thin for a double ply. I think it'll all be fine. It's a pretty thin homespun. I'm relatively pleased with my spinning. I don't have any more of that crazy looking unintentional thick and thin that I used to have with big wads in some of it. I would say the only drawback to this method is that I realized when I was watching Kate, once you've done this, you put it on your wrist and you need to ply it immediately unless you want to wear it as a bracelet for a day or two before you get around to it. So I didn't really plan on this today. I have other things on my agenda. I really need to take a shower because I went walking this morning and I took the recycling in, and then I decided to go get a flu shot, and it rained on me while I was walking. So this is why I'm not letting you see me, because I'm a wee bit grimy, I'm sorry to say. Whoop. This is quite a good bit of yarn. Now I'm just really, at the end here, I'm just winding it around in a big loop on my hand, as you see. Oh, there we are. There's my leader. Okay, I'm going to pause this, and then I guess I'll let you watch me ply this up. I've never done this before. We'll see how it goes. Well, I realized I might as well leave this attached to the leader. Okay. And now I'm going to slip this off my fingers, and then I'm just going to push it down onto my wrist. I hope that works. That looks pretty wonky in there. And I'm going to pull this out of the middle. This was my loop, and I just did a slip knot, so that should come right off of there. Okay, see how it's like a big bracelet? The part that went over my 2 middle fingers, it really looks a little waddy. I'll be interested to see how that comes out. Now, I should be able to just attach the end that was the slip knot here to my leader thread. I don't know why I should have to take that off there. It's weird to do this with this on my wrist. I always do like to tie onto my leader, and if you just fold it over, it'll yank it right out of your hand. Okay, now I need to put my drive band back on. And I also need to, of course, ply the opposite direction. So let's my only concern is the timing of this yarn coming off, because the outside has to go around my wrist, and I'm going to have to be flipping my hand around, but the inside is coming from... Anyway, this will be interesting. Okay, so let's give this a try. Go away, Tricky. Mama's busy. Now it is fairly easy to manage this. I can even use my left hand to help pull. You have to really keep track of those, as they call them, those pigtails. You also do this with chain plying. You really pull it back till it looks as twisted as you like, and then you feed it in. You pull it back. But over here, I'm having to really flip my hand around to get that yarn off of there. Maybe I can turn this around a bit and you can see it. Okay, just remember, I look pretty junky. These are my going walking clothes. It's kind of a junky black farm skirt and a lightweight shirt from the thrift store. The thing is, as long as your tension is not set too tight and it's not pulling too fast, you have time to wait here and wait for it to get the twist you want. You can pull it out, look for adequate twist, and then pull it in. So there's not this hurry. If you're doing this kind of chain ply, this is not chain plying, this double ply, a center pull double ply, or a chain plying, and you're feeling really frantic, it probably means, oh, I need to move that along. It probably means that you're not actually twisting your yarn enough. You're feeding it in, just like if I fed it in right now, it would not be twisted. And so you can wait. Once I pull it back to my tummy, check it, and then feed it in. Loosen it up, pull it back to my tummy, feed it in. And just like with the, feels weird to have this on my left side, but just like with the chain plying, the hand that's not feeding in the yarn is doing all this work over here to try to get the singles free. And it's over here working on its own. It feels a little awkward. I think just like with chain plying, I think after I'd done it more, I would probably like it more. Move this down again. I'm moving my little, whatever they call those circles on the side. I will say this though, I have not had any tangling of the yarns yet. Whatever this is in the middle here has not produced any difficulties. As long as I flip my arm around enough, it does come off. I might not be flipping it correctly, and that might be why I'm a little more frustrated than I ought to be. I find plying is fast. Plying is lovely and fast. I used to prefer plying, and I hated spinning on my old wheel because it was so hard. My wheel was so ornery. But now that I have a lovely wheel, I really prefer spinning, and I find plying to be a bit of a pain, even if I'm plying from 2 bobbins. I still find that a bit nerve-wracking too, because you have singles coming from 2 different locations. I think that's what I like about chain plying the most, is that the single is coming from 1 location. Even with this, I've got a single coming from the middle of my hand and a single coming from the outside of my hand, and that's, I might need to kind of get used to that feel. I kind of wish that there were a different way, a different direction to wrap that yarn around my hand rather than the one that Kate showed us. I feel like they're coming off in opposite ways. I doubt that there's a way to do that though. Let's see. The one on the inside is coming around the back, and the one on the outside is going around the back. That's what's awkward about it. I'll have to ponder that. That make sense? See, here is the white one right here. This is the outside, the end, and I was wrapping it this way toward my thumb. This is the one from the inside, and it's going the opposite. In other words, if you're looking at this, one of them is going clockwise, this one's going clockwise, and this one's going counterclockwise. And so as they're coming off, I have to flip my hand both ways in order to get them off. And that is a little bit trying. I wonder if Kate's worked that way. I wonder if I'll follow her directions exactly. I don't know. I'm sorry this is such a meandery video. I was intending to fast forward through a lot of this, but I find myself, because I'm new to this, this is my first time doing this, I do wonder if there's a better way to do it, or did I do it wrong? It is getting slightly easier as I go along. I want to point out that this hand that's pulling back right here, I'm making sure that there's no pigtails in there. And you really want to keep that. That's such an important barrier. Everything before this, over here, on this side of these fingers, can be all twisty and yucky. But everything here needs to be smooth and plying well. And so this pinch right here is so essential. And then you can use this hand to draw this back, and after feeding this in, now you have a new clean one. And so as I'm flipping this one around, then I'm going to come here, make this one straight, feed that one in, bring this one back. Okay, just different sections of yarn. And once you wrap your brain around that, it's not quite so challenging. And I'm right-handed, so I want to adjust these little things here. I wish I knew what they were called. I should look it up in my little Kromski book. But I transferred that pinch to this hand. If I let that go, I would have a mess. Okay, and now I'm going to take that pinch back. And once I've got some tension back here, then I can pull this. Okay. I always felt like the chain plying felt very much like playing those string games we had in elementary school. Remember doing Witch's Broom, Cup and Saucer, that kind of stuff. Those were so much fun. I miss being in 5th grade, although I don't think I was really a very happy 5th grader. But anyway, I think I liked recess a little bit until we started playing softball and stuff, and I was no good at that. So I always wanted to sit in the outfield and pick clover or daisies. Not that there was ever enough to actually make a daisy chain, and then I was always hopeful that eventually they would forget about me and I wouldn't have to switch places when the team switched at the innings or whatever it is, and that I could just be in the outfield for both teams. And if anybody ever, bizarrely hit a ball out that far, they could count on me to go track it down in the ditch. That was pretty much how I felt about athletics. See, while I'm waiting for this to ply up, to twist up, I'm doing my other hand. So there is a rhythm. So pull, flip my wrist, feed that in, pull. And you can, the tension on your wheel allows you to feed that in nice and fast. Go ahead and let it take it in, okay? You don't have to restrain it at all. Go ahead and, you're not shoving it in because you really just release it. I'm restraining it, restraining, don't restrain. Yeah. It is a little bit twisty. It's important to stop it while you still can. There we go. Okay, so I'm restraining it, And then as soon as I let go, it takes it in. It's very fun. This is going to be a good size bobbin. Nope, go the other way. Go the other way. There we go. Kate makes this look so easy, but imagine she's been doing it for years. I don't know how long she's had her spinning wheel. I'm also not sure. She has the Saxony style wheel. I have a castle style. And from looking at hers, although I couldn't really tell, I wonder if she has an Ashford traditional, but I'm not quite sure. But something maybe like that. Has that same light brown color. I like her spinning video. She doesn't spin tons. It's not the primary thing she does. Her primary thing is quilting and any type of work with fabric. She just does amazing stuff. The nice thing about this too is that as I'm getting better at this, you can pick a finger and you can put a little tension on either one of these two. See how I've got that they just kind of land, and once you get better at it, if you need to put a little tension on this because you got a pigtail you need to pull out on this one but not on this one, you can kind of adjust that. It's kind of cool. I like that. This is growing on me. I think I would use chain plying if I specifically wanted a triple ply, but I imagine most of the time I'm going to want a double ply, and so this is not a method you use just so you can get a center pull ball. There's plenty of ways to get a center pull ball for knitting, you know, just to knit or something if you've got yarn that's already finished, already plied. But this is a method for getting a 2-ply with no leftover single. I think this will be a bit twisty, but I think that's okay. Sometimes I think my yarn is overly twisted in the ply and in the spinning, but then when I finish it, you know, give it a little wet finish, and after I put it on the nitty knotty, wet finish it, and then thwack it really hard on the door jamb, and then hang it to dry, I find that it is perfectly balanced and hangs straight and knits well. So apparently I'm not overspinning. I've tried to back off sometimes on overspinning, and what I find is that I have yarn that breaks. So, I mean, the strength of the yarn, the strength of even a single ply is found in its twist. You have to twist it. This is going to be so fun because it's going to come out even. I love that. Put a little knot on the end. It gets very easy here at the end where you're just flipping it off the end of your fingers. See, I can feel it wanting to come off, and I can use my thumb to kind of hold it on. This is really great. It's very useful to have this hand over here as, that's another advantage over triple plying. Triple plying, you're taking off of a bobbin. But here you're taking off the hand, and the hand is a wonderful instrument. Okay, so there you go. I'm going to tie a little knot on the end here. Tricky can tell I'm done. Oh, she might need to go outside. Okay, Tricky. Let's give that one last little flip. Okay. There it is, big and bulky.